Hello, and welcome to Why I Love Warhammer, the series where I go into an unscripted ramble about why I love something in this hobby. And this is another painting and chat live stream. So I've got my palette, which is a Tupperware lid, some water, and my 3 Necrons that I'm hoping to finish today. Interesting technique I've realized with these Necrons that you're not going to see anyone else, I don't think, ever say as a painting technique. And to be honest, I wouldn't recommend it. So, fun fact, this desk you see is where I do basically all of my life. Like I say I work here. I prep my videos here. I do up until today, I do job hunting for traditional employment from this on this desk. And any video games I play that aren't on the Switch, I play on this PC. So, sometimes I'll even eat at this desk. So this desk is very much, as close as I get to an everything room. So that means, and I have my entire backlog of models sat on the desk looking at me for the entire week between streams, which means I have an entire week of having these models look at me, and I have that week to basically grow to resent my own paint jobs. That's not a good technique for your average Joe. Not going to lie, it's a terrible idea for most. You don't want to hate the model. You don't want to hate your own paint jobs. You want to feel pride. But when doing a stream, like I'm doing, you get to see the bits you've missed. You get to see the bits you think, "Oh, why did I do that? Oh God, the paint's not showing up properly there." And so, in that sense, it is useful as a tool to improve. But it's not a tool I'd recommend to people to improve because, I want people to be happy when they hobby, and resentment and happiness I tend to find don't go hand in hand. Maybe that's just me. So today the plan is to finish off this Necron Overlord with the Translocation Shroud, the Imtech the Stormlord 10th edition update, and the Orokin the Diviner 10th edition update. And just to go through and pick out anything I've missed, go over little details again, another thin coat of the gold, and then the original plan actually was to use Angrax Earthshade and then Ardcoat Varnish to finish off the models. But I kind of thought, well, hang on a minute. I'm really liking and evening, Mr. Richard Fry. But the thing is that with the colors is I was really enjoying how the models were looking in terms of the raw colors. I didn't really want to darken that down with Angrax Earthshade. So I'm just not going to use it. I'm not going to use Angrax Earthshade on these. And instead, I'm just going to skip straight to the varnish, which is only going to go on the 2 named characters. Because named characters, I want them to stick out a bit more, so having them be shiny is something I think is useful. So, gone over the green I missed. On Imotech, I outright missed that bottom green bubble. Straight up missed it. So, needed to start with the Moot Green on this occasion. Just going to check if I've missed anything out on Orokin the Diviner here. Just a couple of dregs on this on the back orbs, just to get them looking very neat. And let me know what you guys are working on. If you're what have you been working on most recently? Are you working on anything right now? I always like knowing I always like hearing about people's painting. And let's get through our backlogs together. what's funny is I'm never actually sure what the backlog stuff will sound like to other people, because back during lockdown there was a whole thing of get through your pile of shame and whole thing about piles of shame, and the fact that I'm still talking about backlogs makes me wonder, am I kind of jumping on a dead meme? Yeah, so yeah, let me know what you're working on. Let's get through our backlogs together. It's very easy in this hobby to keep buying stuff and to never get through what you've intended on paint, just never getting through it, because there's painting takes time, and the buying is easy. Buying, you just log on and, well, for me, you have PayPal connected, so it's you just go check out with PayPal. Cruel Boys, nice. Yeah, so I think I gotta admit, I was a bit hesitant about Cruel Boys when they launched, but the range now is so lovely that, yeah, I definitely am a convert. A Mernob Troll Trader sent me a Swamp Caller. Yeah. God, I love the trolls. I love all the big things in the Cruel Boys list. I've got to do a full episode on Cruel Boys. I've got Ossiarch Bone Reapers going up tomorrow. But yeah, I think I'm gonna have to start prepping a Cruel Boys episode, because they just don't get enough love. Like, I know they're at the starter set, but even then they don't get enough love in my view. So yeah, Oricon the Diviner has his green blobs sorted now. So I'd be interested in seeing. Actually, so Mr. Richard Fry, who is watching the stream right now, how many paints do you own? Because I've got a theory about kind of what a normal hobbyist can do and does do versus what every freaking online guide says. So, the Sludge Raker, yes. God, yeah, that'd be a fun model to build me. Honestly, I love, it's going to be a fun one. Yeah, I can see that one being a fun one. Do you use contrasts normally, or do you use? Have you been converted to the contrast method, or do you mainly go net base layer shade kind of deal? There's no wrong method, obviously. Just curious about people's techniques. I've got a So it's interesting that you view contrast as being a higher skill, because they were not designed to be that way. They were designed to be the super easy entry point into the hobby. I don't think I'd ever be able to paint a model using just contrast, just because I like to be able to pick out details. But huge fan of them, and I do feel like they, at least for me, they lower the barrier to entry. I've never used speed paints. To be honest, the only non-Citadel paints I've ever used was the Vallejo airbrush set. So I wanted to get good at airbrushing. It never really panned out. I never got good with an airbrush, basically. But yeah, speed paints I was really curious about, because I really wanted to check out that they had a really interesting wood shade, and I absolutely adored the idea of getting a Sylvaneth army and painting them up. Do the Zenithal base coat, Zenithal undercoat, followed by the wood speed paint. But yeah, I just never. I never got round to And I never found a Sylvaneth list I particularly wanted to build up all the way in that style, but also, yeah, I never got around to acquiring the speed paints basically. But I hear amazing things about them. Yeah, I think for Sylvaneth, there's kind of two different flavors of Sylvaneth they do. One is the tree people, which is what I'd want to collect. But there's also the cool bugs, and these like bugs and forest spirits. And sometimes it feels to me like they are trying to do two separate armies at the same time. But they are definitely awesome models. A friend of mine swears by them, and his models look great, so I might grab. Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I think, to be honest, the main reason I stick with Citadel, and I'll grant this is not the best reason to stick with Citadel paints as religiously as I do, is just because I feel it's that central repository of them. There's not a good reason to only use one brand of paint. I think at one point the Golden Demon rules said you could only ever use Citadel paints. Although at the time there weren't really, I didn't know about any other good brands of paint for miniatures. But now there are so many. The other one I'm looking, I'd be interested in checking out actually, is the Two Thin Coats range by Duncan Rhodes. So no, I don't have a lamp. I'm entirely lit by a single overhead light that provides in the entirety of my light source in this room. But good to know. I'll try and invest in a lamp because, yeah, I don't want to be stuck in the dark forever. So yeah, what I just did there with those models in this Caliban green is to yeah, humble beginnings. I'm hoping that I get to take off a bit more and whatnot, but we'll see how it pans out. The thing I just did there, the Caliban green around the base rims, I didn't always do that. I didn't always go for a separate color on the base rim. I just painted them up to I either spray the bases white before I started and get the base rim done that way, or I just say, oh no, it is black. Swear to God, it's black. But yeah, I just developed the monomers for it. And it was nice to kind of have an extra color to kind of tie things together a little bit. So next color to be using, I'm gonna. So that's the interesting thing is I don't think I'd ever actually want to get an external studio for the channel. I appreciate those who do get the big studios, but I don't think I'd ever want to trade away the intimacy you get from kind of painting and talking from home. Having a cup of tea there. Yeah, I just feel like there's there's certain intimacy of having painting from home and doing all this stuff. I've got a home office and I've got a little home office that I set up a couple of years ago or so. And I just don't see that I'd ever. I could change where the home office is. Lord knows I don't really want to live in this house forever, but it would be. Yeah, I'd always like to. If I can help it, I'd always like to stream from my home. Just going to do a couple of touch-ups of lead belcher. Thankfully, my lead belcher paint is in the same box. So I've got a tub of the same paint that I sprayed, which is nice. I've got to tell you, that is nice to have that. Just having a look around, see if there's any silver that I went over with a different color. That silver there. In Motec, I know I have got silver I need to touch up. It's also interesting to do painting for different markets, right? So, like, historically, I've painted for tabletop. And the way people view your models in a tabletop game is from a technique of painting. So what I'll tend to do is I start with the most numerous color. Thankfully for Necrons, that's silver, right? So I spray the whole thing silver. And then it's kind of just choosing blocks of colors. And I try to alternate, so I'm not just doing all the greens at the same time. But yeah, what I normally do is I start with the base color, start with the big block color, and then I tend to shade down. So I'll do that. I'll tidy it up, and then I'll shade it down where I need to, and tidy up between the shading and the bases and the base coats. That's just what I find works for me. And basically, the size of the brush I use is entirely dependent on the scale of the thing I'm doing. But what I tend to find works quite well is for the intricate, detailed bits, is to use like a wash. So what I did for Imotech here, granted that was 3 streams ago and 4 weeks. Whereas the first thing I did after the silver was I used a watered down Hexwraith Flame contrast paint to get into all the little gaps. So inside the rib cage, the eyes, and the cloak had this watered down Hexwraith Flame to get into all the recesses, and I could build up from there. The technique I've got really just kind of varies model to model. You kind of look at a model and you ask yourself what would be best for it. Yeah, I never really developed a wholesale technique that would work for every that would work for every model, because they would just seem too different. I mean, the only thing I would say is that when it comes to like a battle line unit, when it comes to like standard troop choices, I'll always I tend to like to do those in batches, kind of do all the silver, all the gold, because I think that just makes for a slightly more uniform arrangement, which for your battle line units is very important. So yeah, but like I say, for these models, so starting with base colors and then tidying up, that is a good technique. That's solid. I'm not going to criticize that technique at all. I just find I'm never quite as organized, I guess, to have a technique like that just works for everything. It's very much a case of how do I want to approach this model. So, and I'll often be thinking about that while I'm planning on the model, like before it's even in my hands, just taking a look at it and thinking, okay, so which are the bits that need, how would I approach this? I'm gonna take another sip of tea. I've got a cup of tea in a mug here, just off camera, and just behind the camera, I have another drink that I'm not going to say what. So, palettes. The wet palette is if you want to do the classic too thin coat technique. If that's what you're looking for, you want to do the classic too thin coats, and you're specifically interested in having that super smooth finish, then yeah, go for a wet palette. There's a guy on YouTube called Tabletop Minions. He releases a new video every Friday and does a stream every other Sunday. I never watch his streams. They're always at weird times and they're at weekends. But his Friday videos are really good and informative. And he has a technique on making a wet palette for free out of Tupperware. I don't have a wet palette. I have a Tupperware lid. And that serves me well enough. It's not the best, but it's good enough. Yeah, for my purposes at least, I find it good enough. And even then, like it sounds like sacrilege to just say I take paint directly out of the paint pot and put it on the model. Yeah, it sounds like sacrilege in the Warhammer YouTube space to say, but it is how I've always functioned. It's how I've always done this, and I find if you're careful, it's fine. Basically, it works just fine to do it that way. I don't feel like you need to go to mental. Basically, not a requirement. So Oracle the Diviner here. Yeah, I use Caliban green on that weapon, so I'm just going to tidy up the Caliban green. Dinner plate also works well. I always find dinner plate, I get tempted to try and peel off the paint afterwards, whereas the Tupperware lid, I just stick it in the dishwasher. The only thing I think I do differently that is still kind of deeply affordable is my water pot, which is just a glass and the glass actually uses from a reclaimed candle. Like I removed the residual wax from a candle and put that into and just took the glass. Yeah, white towel from B&Q is a good shout. Just you can use basically anything. If it's got the right, if it's smooth enough, you can use basically anything. I've got I have a lot of Tupperware lids. Well, I've got a lot of Tupperware because before I started dieting, I would eat a lot of Chinese takeaway, and that would come in Tupperware. And I just kept accumulating more and more Tupperware, which is not good for the waistline, but tasty and good for the Tupperware collection. It's weird. You get a lot of tools for painting that I can make it unnecessarily expensive. So like buying an entire wet palette, more power to you if you want to, but not one I find necessary. The other one, I'll show you this piece of kit. So I own this thing, which was lovingly bought for me. It's crocodile clips and a big old magnifying glass to really see the detail in your models. Where's the Games Workshop kit? You can either get for 10 times cheaper or just make yourself. Yeah, I have been interested in getting the official paint pot because I've got a mug that says one says paint water and the other says not paint water. Like that, I think is interesting, but I'd want that for the humor value of it, not because I am requiring a paint pot. The other thing you can do for cheaper than Games Workshop when it comes to basing is don't get Games Workshop basing materials. Get model railway stuff. Model railway trees, model railway grasses. It's more expensive than you'd hope, but it is still a lot cheaper than GW. Model railway enthusiasts have been at this far longer than mini wargamings have been a thing. I say that mini wargaming is actually ancient, but like mini wargaming in the context of Warhammer. I'd like to be specific actually about that difference because, just because I only play one company's miniature war game doesn't mean that I would only ever want to, and B, I think that, I'm not a Warhammer hobbyist. I am a miniature wargamer. And I've looked into other systems. Like, there's an Elder Scrolls system that looks really interesting, actually. The thing is that when it comes to trying to get a new game, I used the Middle Earth game from Games Workshop back when it was Lord of the Rings in 2005. That was my entry point to the hobby. 2005, 2006. The Middle Earth, and at Middle Earth as it is now, is one of the best rule sets that Games Workshop have. Generally, people get divided as to whether or not Warcry or Lord of the Rings is the best rule set in GW games. But yeah, I love the Lord of the Rings system. Painting horses is good, but in a sense, I kind of prefer it if the horses were done with sculpted in fur. And hello, Dried Shroom. Dried Shroom is one of the 2 YouTube members on the channel, so really happy for you to join. We're just doing some painting, some chatting, and don't worry if my voice gets a bit annoying, feel free to mute, although please don't cancel the stream because it's nice to have people watching. So next, I'm going to use this Hexagon Flame. Oh yeah, other miniatures games. Lord of the Rings has a really good rule set. Like I said, I think I prefer it if I could have sculpted first, so I could use more paint. I could use painting techniques like contrast that I'm really enjoying. Star Wars Legion. That miniatures game looks really good. I definitely want to play battle droids in Star Wars Legion. I did play Star Wars X-Wing for a while. X-Wing is interesting because you can paint the models, but they do come pre-painted. But that one is enormously good fun, actually. Loved Star Wars X-Wing. You've got 3 factions. Clicking the heart is I think it's just a love react. So I think you can, it's just an emote. You can emote to things I say. Thank you for the reaction. That's lovely. Thank you for the hearts. This is, thank you. What was I saying? Star Wars X-Wing. Star Wars X-Wing is a really fun system where you've got it's ship combat, so you're constantly flying, and it's actually a real power move if you've got a model that can just stop and not move at all. You've got a system of stress, and you don't have. There are dice rolls, but they're not as prescriptive as they are in other games. And you can take points of stress and stuff like that. It's a really fun system. You don't have measuring tapes, you have movement templates. Basically. But what you do is you start your turn by pre-selecting your movement. You pre-select your movement from a dial, and then you take it in turns to reveal how you're going to move. And that's when ships can crash. There are a couple. So I know of. So X-Wing's the one I'm talking about with these movement templates. Love X-Wing. The other 2 that I'm aware of. So Star Wars X-Wing. But you've also got Star Wars Legion, which is a very popular one. It's possibly the only competitor I've seen for Warhammer in terms of size of armies. And the other one is called Star Wars Armada. And Armada is a huge, unwieldy game with really weird movement mechanics. Never really understood it. But yeah, Star Wars X-Wing is brilliant fun. And it's one of the lower barriers to entry that I've ever seen in a war game. I think you can run it with the largest number of ships I've seen in a game of Star Wars X-Wing was 5. And that was a guy who ran 5. It was an A-Wing, a tiny, tiny little ship. He did. I played it in tournaments. So I used to work in a comic book store that would sell these games, right? And it meant that most of my exposure. Yes, let's go A-Wings. Yeah, most of my exposure to a lot of these games, so trading card games, X-Wing, was all tournament based. Everything about it was tournaments only. And so I would play X-Wing exclusively in tournaments. You've got 3 factions in Star Wars in X-Wing. You've got it was 3 when I started, and then it moved up to 5. It started with just Rebels, Empire, and it's called Scum and Villainy, which are your bounty hunters and stuff. So I played those guys. I didn't want to play any of the main 2. And then they introduced the Separatists and the Republic. That's what they were called, Republic, for the prequels. And then they had the Resistance and whatever the totally not Empire swear you guys was called in the sequel trilogy. But yeah, so so I'd have a 2-ship list, right? I had got to not say the name because YouTube monetization rules. I had Boba Fett's ship, and if you know the name of Boba Fett's ship, you'll know why I can't say the name on YouTube. And it was a ship called the Hound's Tooth, and I love the Hound's Tooth because I said that you have to move every turn, but one of the movement options for the Hound's Tooth was called the Glottal Stop. You took 1 point of hull stress for having done a Glottal Stop, but you could, and it really tripped over your opponents because they'd try and get you to crash and stuff, and you could say, "Nope, I'm just going to stay where I am." And that was a fun move to pull on your opponents. So fun. God, I love a literary pun. Oh yeah. Young Anakin Skywalker's profession -1. Yes. So yeah. God, yeah. Adored Star Wars X-Wing. Like I say, there's a low barrier to entry, and it's whenever you talk about a new war game, right? Can you wiggling the model around? So the interesting thing with these streams is that my view of it is significantly behind your view of it. So I can try and wiggle stuff around. But yeah. So my camera setup. So it's worth noting that at present, my money situation isn't the greatest. And so I'm not really able to get, peak equipment, as it were. So put a little... Yeah, I would like to get a lamp. The only reason I've got the phone angled as it is I've got a box just out of shot that contains that has my home address in it. I don't want to dox myself on stream. But yeah, so what I've got, my camera, it's a program called Camo Studio. And Camo Studio is an app on your phone that connects to your computer. So my webcam is my phone. If I pull out the drawer a bit, let's just fold that down. Okay. Hopefully when that syncs up again. So yeah, Camo Studio is the camera software, and it lets me use my phone as a webcam. The thing is that my phone, it's the iPhone 14 Plus, and I wasn't going to get a comparable camera for any reasonable money, basically. So I used, so that's why I use my phone as the webcam, and my microphone is called the Yeti Nano, and so I did actually spend money on that. But if I don't use my phone webcam, my webcam becomes this super cheap webcam I got in 2020. That's like completely on the fritz. Like if I move it, it breaks. That's the alternative webcam choice. In my early videos, like my first video of why I love Necrons used that old camera, and you can tell just what the quality is. It's interesting for showing off colors. It's really done better with your kind of Age of Sigmar type models, because you can have more vibrancy and it not feel like a subversion. So like anyone with any sense will tell you paint your models how you like. I got some flack from a video I did of painting Space Marines, where the logic was paint them however you like, but it was dressed up a little bit. I got some flack for that video, and to be honest, it wasn't entirely undeserved. Yeah, with your fantasy things, you get far more vibrant colors. Cameras are expensive. Trying to get I think it was like £400 or something to get a camera with. Why did I get? Okay, so the advice I gave, and I knew it was going to be controversial. I knew it would be controversial advice. Was if you want to play Space Marines, unless you specifically want to play a specific legion, don't unless you want to play a very specific legion, don't buy legion specific models. And then don't paint your army in any official colors. Paint them in literally anything else. That way, on the day that you're playing, you can say, hey, I'm playing Iron Hands. They're an Iron Hand successor. Oh, this is a Space Wolf successor. This is an Ultramarine successor. And your list can be infinitely varied based on that. It keeps you safe from additions. You're not playing to the meta quite as much. And it means that, if you're playing, if say the Iron Hand special rules are particularly meta, you can say, no, this is an Iron Hands list. And then when White Scars inevitably become meta, you can say, no, this is a White Scars list. The issue people took with it was that I said to not get Legion specific models, because those you end up painting to the lore. And I get people saying, well, no, just buy Lionel Johnson, the Dark Angels, and paint them up in Ultramarines colors. And if you want to do that, do it. That's awesome. I'd love to see him in blue or White Scar white. I think I had one comment come to my defense saying, actually, no, it does help you stop falling into common pitfalls. But I knew that video would be controversial from the get-go. So interestingly enough, what you're saying there about you can't play if the colors are wrong. In 9th edition, that was literally the rules. They updated it so that if your army was if you had an army of Space Marines and they were all painted in what was very clearly Blood Angels, you couldn't say they're White Scars. And it didn't just extend that far. So my Necrons get painted as Saltec Dynasty. And so it was technically against the rules for me to play them as Zerakan Dynasty. Similarly, for Harlequins, you had to paint them in the correct color. But the thing is that, like, for Space Marines, people know. I'm going to turn my camera to show my face. Screw it. Take off the hat. The hat to keep my eyes. Yeah, people know, generally speaking, what the Space Marine Legion colors are and do. Let's change the rotation of the camera. It's going to take a bit of finicky stuff right now while I try and sort out my camera and angles and stuff to see my face. So yeah, I agree. You should just be able to have fun. But yeah, Space Marines, kind of everyone knows what the colors of the main legions are, right? People, generally speaking, know red is Blood Angels, dark blue Ultramarines, that weird bluey grey is for Space Wolves. But they tend not to be so aware of what the Twilight Sadith is for Harlequins. And so, yeah, it just meant that people couldn't have as much fun with it. And you just couldn't do what you wanted properly. And, you know, trying to paint... And it was especially annoying if you had different detachments. So if you had an Eldari craft world that was one detachment to one craft world and another detachment of another craft world, you had to paint them differently. Yes, emotes are getting used. Thank you. The emotes are a members thing. If you join, I think it's any membership tier. But if you join my channel membership, you get to emote during live streams. And if you've got ideas for other emotes I could add in, I'll gladly take them on board because I can add more than I have. I just use some default ones of stock photos I have of myself. So what I'm going to do here, yes, I fully agree. Bright pink Marines. There's a legion actually called there is a canon legion called the Rainbow Warriors, but unfortunately they are mostly blue. Cheapy Necrons. Okay, you get the emotes through channel memberships. Chibi Necrons. So the only worry I'd have with having Chibi Necrons as emotes would be just copyright. I could potentially do it with Skaven because they're rats, but I feel like Necrons are a very specific look that they've got the copyright for. I would love to have done that, though. It would have been awesome to have Necrons as emotes. So yeah, currently all the emotes are just pictures of me because I have not. I'd say I've not signed away the rights to my face, but I did at one point, and then I got them back. So, fun fact: my version of the stream's only just gotten to the bit with my face, where I've changed the camera angle to show my face. In case you're wondering, when did I sign away the rights to my face? So, I used to work for a very large games company. I won't say which one, but it was not a games company of games I wouldn't necessarily endorse. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily endorse the company I worked for to an audience of people. And on their careers website, they wanted people They wanted people on the careers website to agree to use for their photos to get used. It was a very weird. It was a very weird situation because they said, "Oh, we need." They basically very much hinted that they wanted people who, they want people for that website who, they didn't say not white people, but they near enough did. So I agreed. I got a small amount of money for the rights to my face, and then the day I left that company, I got the rights to my face back, and so I can use that for emotes. But yeah, so the fun fact I will mention is actually so there are 2 people chatting and 3 people watching the stream. 2 people chatting I know in real life, and it's really hard to not talk to you guys as such. So you know who that former employer is. But so using this Ard coat of varnish, it does not look safe for work out of the pot, but it does give models a really lovely shine finish and protects them. Yeah, I've got 3 viewers. I have a little thing that has number of viewers in the top left corner. So yeah, I can see how many people are watching the stream at any given time. So here's the strong. Yeah, I love this varnish stuff because it A, protects the model, and B, makes it look shiny. It's not right for every model in the range, but I do love it for Necron named characters. So this is Ard coat varnish, which is the shiny one. But then, you can get a spray called Munitorum varnish. That's a matte finish, which is great for things like my Chaos Knights. But for my Necrons, for Necron named characters, I want something a bit more. You've got to go. It's supposed. I tend to end. I like to end these streams about 6:30 anyway. Stream for an hour of painting. I didn't get to do. The plan for this stream was to go finish these 3 models off and then try and paint and then start on another thing which I've been very evasive about. I just call it the model of my dreams. But I don't think I'm going to get to start that model. I'll do that next week's stream. It won't have the same air of mystery around it because I'll put up a little teaser trailer in the day for what it is I'll be painting. But I'll just say the model that I'll be starting to work on, it's not a Necron. It's a model from the Adepta Sororitas range, the Sisters of Battle. It's the Immolator, the troop transport. Oh, the new Pokemon news. Yes. I'll say the Immolator from the Sisters of Battle range, it's got a stained glass window. New Pokemon news. Yes, very excited. Pokemon Legends, they haven't said Zygarde. But it's Zygarde very clearly. Mini Pokemon Wargame when? So I did actually at one point start working with my other half, with my fiance, to try and invent a rule set for a Pokemon mini wargame. And the idea was to have it full-scale battles, but where the balancing, rather than being points, was levels. So you could have 100 level 1 Mewtwo's, for example, but they'd be level 1. I don't remember why we stopped planning it out. And the thing is, it's trying to keep it wholesome, 2,000 point army of 5 Giratina. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, points are weird. Like in the Warhammer space, 2,000 points is like the go-to. But in theory, like, so in most armies, 2,000 points is about 40-ish models. Between 20 and 40 models. Yeah, paint your own, make the rubber shinies good, yes. I feel like it was more of a thing when I still owned a 3D printer. Toy Pokemon wind-up game, no, that sounds awesome. Yeah, your own custom Pokemon, your own villain, that'd be amazing, actually. Yeah, yeah, it'd be so fun. Yeah, it would be a lot of fun to have that. And welcome to people who've just joined. Pokemon Rumble Blast. I think I played a Pokemon Rumble game on the Wii U, actually. It was fun enough. But so to those just joining, welcome to the painting and chat stream. Feel free to discuss what you're painting. I do read all the messages. I have a lag, so if you want to mention anything about my setup, let me know, but it will be a delayed response. I don't know if anyone else can tell when people join the stream, but what I have in the top left of my screen is the number of people watching at that moment. So I can see right now it says 4. It was 5 when I started that sentence and 1 left. So, and now it's 3. Yeah, I've got a degree of knowledge, but it's not the most it's not always up to date. Yeah, so it says 1 watching now for you. I think maybe one of those 3 is me. Now it says 2. Yeah, I've now covered the 2 named character Necrons, Imhotep the Stormlord and Oricon the Diviner in paint. And yeah, people do leave. The average view time for a YouTube video is 30 seconds. And people check a video out and they'll disappear quickly. So yeah, it's very much a the TikTok brain rot. But yeah, so that is 3 Necron characters painted up. I'll show you the immolator, which is the thing I'm going to start next week, which is this. So this is the Sisters of Battle troop transport. Yeah, right now I just finished up painting up the 3 Necrons that are Imhotep the Stormlord, who is this boy right here. Oricon the Diviner, this boy right here. And the Necron Overlord with Translocation Shroud. And then starting next week, I'm going to be painting up this immolator. And the reason I love this model so much, why it's such a dream come true, is this bit, the stained glass window. I feel like, as a hobbyist, you have the notion of painting your own stained glass window would be just incredible. It's dropped down to 1 viewer for me now, so maybe that's wrong, maybe it's just not quite, maybe it's not up to date, but I think with that, so that's what I'm going to be painting up next time. got 3 Necron characters that I'm happy to draw a line under now. In theory, you can just keep going, but then stuff doesn't get sorted. My webcam has just dropped off. There we are. But with that, I think I'm going to call it there. It's been just under an hour of painting, and if done's always better than perfect. And like I'm at a point with these 3 models now where I'm very happy with them. In my view, I think they're better than the thing I'd painted just before, that previous model, and so that achieves that hobby goal. And yeah, in theory, I could keep these guys on my desk for another week and see all the imperfection stuff I don't like with them, but then I'd just be painting the same 3 models forever. And so yeah, so tomorrow I've got a video going up about the Seraphon, the lizard men in Age of Sigmar. On Friday, I'm doing what I thought was impossible and summarizing the Siege of Vrax in 4 sentences. And for a laugh, I actually compared my summary with what ChatGPT summarized it as in 4 sentences. So I've got both of those happening in the same video. That's going up on Friday. Monday, I'll do the usual news roundup. And then, because of you, I lost my boyfriend to Warhammer. Well, I think the solution there is to get into Warhammer. No, I mean, I joke, but it is genuinely something you can do together with your partner. You might not enjoy the game aspect of it, but you might enjoy the painting or the lore, the building, the conversions. Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. My other half's better at painting than I am. I'm notionally better at doing the spray undercoats, but I'm not entire. But actual paint jobs are not as good. But yeah, so next week I'm going to be painting up. I'm going to start painting up the immolator. Start with the stained glass window, and I've probably got 3 or 4 weeks worth of painting on that immolator. And then after that, so I'll show you my complete backlog actually. So there's this immolator here. Then I've got 2 red Gobbo models that were Christmas releases. Then everything else in my backlog consists of this non-GW model, which is Legion from Mass Effect. Then I've got this and this Goblin from Rascal Town Miniatures. There are 2. There's a 3rd one that just got released that I've not acquired. And then I've got the shell of a 2nd immolator that I'm going to be using as a stage as part of an elaborate kit bash that I've been working on and off for a while. But I don't feel like I can paint the non-GW models on stream. I've got a back order of Army of the Dead and Grotmus, the other Christmas release from GW, that could be coming any time between tomorrow morning and another 3 months' time. But yeah, so once I finish up the backlog, I don't think I'm going to be painting the Rascal Town stuff on stream, but I've probably got another 6 weeks worth of GW minis, maybe 8 weeks if I finish up the kit bash on stream. But yeah, that's when I actually reached the end of my backlog. So yeah, we have got a couple of back orders going in, and then at some point I want to get a Warcry warband and a Blood Bowl team, because Blood Bowl's underrated. But the thing with Blood Bowl and any new game system I try and get into is I'd want to play with someone, which means I've got to get two lists worth, so I can introduce someone else to the game. With that, we've been going for an hour. I've got to a good point. So yeah, see you all next week. And until then, I hope you're all having a really good day.